I'm going to talk about how to not destroy your networking efforts and the top 6 things that you should not do at all when networking at music events. Let's get it. I'm Vaughan, the creator and host of We Create Music TV, and this is video number 4 in our Networking in the Music Industry series. Time to move on to our networking don'ts, things that you absolutely do not want to do. These are the key things that will ruin your chances to making that meaningful connection that could jumpstart your music career. So avoid doing these at all costs. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. This is my own personal list of things that I have seen inhibits a person from moving on in their career. So number 1, do not rudely interrupt. One of the keys in networking is being persistent and intentional. Yes, I understand that, right? You gotta be persistent and intentional in your efforts. One of the biggest mistakes I've seen is when someone crashes the party by rudely interrupting a conversation. There's nothing wrong with wanting to jump in on the discussion, but wait for a natural break in the conversation to do so. You may be able to find space to squeeze in, but if that doesn't present itself, then you're just gonna have to wait until it's over. Now, I told you I've been giving you personal examples. Right, so here's one. So I was attending an event and was waiting to speak with a very, very well-known Grammy award-winning producer, multi-platinum, multi-talented, tons of Grammys, right? And we had a chance to speak. So we started to engage in conversation, but halfway through, someone decided to just jump in and interrupt and take over the conversation. This was completely unprofessional and rude, not just to the person who was being interrupted, but also on the other person for allowing it to happen in the first place. Now, one of the things that I found to be funny is that sometimes people know that you're waiting to speak to a certain connection and they're going to try to monopolize the conversation the entire time in hopes that you leave. I have seen this happen way too many times. So what do you do in that situation? I always try to schedule a meeting for later. This way I can have ample time for a thorough discussion. Remember, one of the best networking practices is to request a meeting. Man, I remember that like clear as day. The person just straight jumped in. Hey, how's it going? Hey, let me go and talk to you about what stuff. And I looked at the person like, and looked back at the person who I was speaking to, and the other person that I was speaking to allowed it to happen. So, both are at fault, the person who interrupted and the person who allowed it to continue. So I took it as a learning lesson, but sometimes those things do happen. Just be very mindful of them. All right, number 2, do not, and I mean do not, be deceiving. Oh man. So I was attending the ASCAP Music Expo in 2016, right? I already talked about this, where Timbaland was the guest speaker, and Timbaland couldn't be there in person, so he joined via Skype and was accepting questions from the audience. Now, if you attended this event, then you know what I'm talking about when it comes to this particular do not do. Don't do this. Do not be deceiving in your intentions. So there was this like super long line with limited time to interact with Timbaland. And so this one guy got up and proceeded to approach the microphone. And when he spoke, he didn't even ask a single question. He completely hijacked the Q&A session by introducing his artist, who did an impromptu performance. Now, while he may have done something that was courageous and unforgettable, his approach was certainly unwelcome and rude, especially to everybody else who was waiting in line to ask Timbaland a question. He was completely deceptive in his approach, as the basis of this was a Q&A session, and those who had legit questions probably did not even get to ask those questions. So I'm gonna say it again, do not be deceiving, period. At all. That is not professional. It is not warranted. So don't be deceiving. Number 3, do not stand around looking at your phone. You'd be surprised how many times I'm at a music event and I see people on their phones all day. Now, I know they may be posting on Instagram or whatever the case is, but keep your phone in your pocket. Too often I see this happening. Like I said, don't be on your phone at networking events. Just because a side conversation started with someone or, someone that you were speaking with somehow got interrupted, doesn't mean it's time for you to start checking your email or your Instagram or your Twitter feed. First, it's unprofessional, and second, it shows disinterest and a lack of maturity and intentionality. Instead, do the hard work of networking. Walk around to another group of people and start having a conversation with them. Take a look at their name tag, introduce yourself, and engage in the conversation with them. Now, before we proceed any further, take a moment to subscribe to our channel, as it helps us to rank higher and make this type of content more available to other music creators just like you. Number 4, Don't stay with only one person. It's obvious, but sometimes we get comfortable when we gain momentum with one conversation. We neglect the possibility of other great interactions taking place. Don't be afraid to leave the great conversation, because then you'll have more reason to reach out to them when this event is over. So don't just stay with one person. Don't get too comfortable with one person. You're there to network and engage with tons of others. So do just that. Also, it is understanding that you may be attending these music events with other friends, but remember, they already know you and are in the same situation as you may be in. Do not be afraid to mingle with others outside of those that you're attending this event with. Now, I have seen countless times at a music conference, the same group of people always huddle together. Now, if you want to hang out with just your music buddies, you can do that somewhere else, at home, whatever, but don't do it at the music event. This is a time to make those connections to further your career. Obviously, your homies that are at this event with you aren't the ones that can help further your career. So take the time to meet the people that can. Number 5, avoid selling. Oh my gosh, this is not a sales conference, right? So avoid selling. Whether it is about you, your music, your services, do not try to sell. I've mentioned this previously. Offer something to the other person that you're speaking with, and they'll be more likely to help and connect you with resources, etc. Do not hand out flyers to every person or pull out your phone and play your beats or your latest album right then and there. There's times and places for that. Your goal is to make connections with the hope that you'll establish lasting relationships in the future. Now, if they want to hear your music, you best be prepared to play it. Number 6, don't be too casual with your language. The music industry has become more casual about language, but you should not use The music business has become more casual about language, but you should not use language that's unprofessional or contain expletives, especially when you're meeting for someone the first time. I mean, you're just not going to just drop F-bombs when you're first meeting a music executive. I hope not. So for me, it is a big turn off, and I want nothing more to just end the conversation. Expletives should be reserved for conversations with those that you know very well, or well enough to know that they're not going to be offended by you dropping F-bombs and whatever. Expletives should be reserved for those types of situations, not for people that you just meet on the onset. So I was attending A3C here in Atlanta, probably 2017, 2018. And I had this guy come up to me and ask if I knew where he could get some gas from. Gas. So I proceeded to provide him with directions to the nearest gas station. I was like, yeah, go up here to the right. Once you get up here, make a left, and then you're gonna see the nearest gas station right there. It's a Shell on your right-hand side. He just looked at me and was like, no, I mean, do you know where I can get some weed? I just looked at him, shook my head, and was like, nah, I don't know where you can get some weed from. And I just walked off. Like, this is the first interaction he and I ever had. And the first interaction he has with me is asking, hey, you know where I can get some gas? I was like, gas? Be careful who you are speaking with. You never know, right? Save that for other conversations. But at networking events, that's not how you do it. While this situation didn't include cursing, you never know who you're speaking with, and your language can be a big turnoff and close doors just on the basis of that initial meeting. That's just me. If he would have came back up to me and was like, yeah, man, hey, I know you're this music executive, which I will be, in the future. But I'm more inclined to go, I may not give him a chance. I may not, right? So it just all depends. But that context, my initial thoughts would be, I'm good. So be careful. Be careful. That to me is a don't. And I see that happening a lot at music events. Now, with people you know, cool. You can do that. But with people you don't know, just be very cautious and aware of who you're speaking with and the language that you're using. Before we move to our final segment, post-event activities, take a moment and hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to be notified of new content. And of course, I will see you in the next video. Peace. 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 Yes. Yes. Peace. Peace that passes all understanding.